What's up, everybody? I'm Chimoge. This is Chimoge's Comments, and this is part two of my video on how Spanish football is messy. So, if you haven't seen my first video, the reason I'm making this is because the first video, unfortunately, for the second half of it, the sound went off. Still watch that video. The first half is great, and the second half is still really entertaining, even though you don't know what the heck I'm saying. But just to quickly recap what I was talking about the scandal involving the president of the Spanish Football Federation, Luis Rubiales, and Spain's star player, at least one of their star players, Jenny Hermoso. And what happened was Luis Rubiales kissed Jenny Hermoso on the lips during the medal ceremony of the Women's World Cup after Spain had won. And this set off a big controversy. And long story short, um, people have come out on different sides of it. Personally, when I looked at it, it seems unclear whether or not his kiss was consensual or not. So I don't know. But then also, what I also talked about is how there's a lot of other scandals surrounding Luis Rubiales and Spanish football in general, right? So I'm recapping what I said before the sound went off, right? And one of these big scandals involved him being connected to Gerard Piqué, the former FC Barcelona defender who's now retired, legend of the game, but is also very influential off the pitch. He has a lot of business dealings. He owns his own soccer league, likely to be president of FC Barcelona in the future. So anyway, he was making all sorts of deals with Piqué behind the scenes. For example, Piqué, while he was a Spain player, got him to reschedule a Spain game so he could watch a tennis game, which is then partner Shakira. Piqué also convinced him to move the Spanish Super Cup, which is the game usually between the winner of La Liga, Spain's top league, and the Copa del Rey, which is Spain's top cup competition. The winner between the winners of those two competitions usually play each other in that game. They move that game to Saudi Arabia, and in exchange, um, I guess the Spanish Federation got more money, and Gerard Piqué's company also got more money. So that was a shady deal there. So there's a lot of other things they did together that look corrupt, or at least like improper, right? But anyway, what I got into after the sound went off in the previous video, or actually, no, forgive me. Actually, I don't think I'd finished the Gerard Piqué stuff, but basically that's what I talked about. Essentially, Gerard Piqué and Rubiales were really buddy buddy, right? Because again, Rubiales had all these other scandals, all these other SA and S harassment scandals, misappropriation of funds, whatever. And then there's the PK stuff. But the big thing that I think I actually forgot to talk about on the other video, even though you couldn't hear me, so it doesn't matter. But the big thing I missed that I wanted to talk about, which I think might be the undercurrent of this whole thing, is that Rubiales has been accused by some of being anti Real Madrid, right? I saw this in a thread on Twitter. If you're subscribed to my YouTube, please subscribe. If you're not, you'll see it on the community tab. Probably sometime after this video, I'll send it everywhere. I quoted the thread and said, gave my quick thoughts on it. But basically, in the thread, right? This Spanish reporter, at least I assume he's Spanish. Maybe he's not, but his at is like La Liga something. So clearly he's really focused on Spanish football. But anyway, this guy gives a whole list of all the stuff that Rubiales has done wrong. Clearly anti-Rubiales, which again I'm not necessarily against because I don't know. Seems like a shady guy, but I don't know if he did what he's being accused of here, and I don't know. Well, from what I've seen, at least he seems irresponsible. At the very least, you don't want an irresponsible person heading you. But is he? Well, then again, I don't know. The evidence I saw about him and Gerard Piqué seemed conclusive. That alone seems like a fireable offense, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with trying to get your federation more money, but if you're in talks with an individual person who will directly benefit uh, from a move and you make that move after talking to them, that looks like you're not acting in the best interest of the federation and football in your country. It looks like you're just trying to get some money for yourself. So, Honestly, when I just sit and think about it, like putting the Jenny Hermoso situations aside, which again I don't know about, maybe some more stuff will come out in the future that'll make me decide whether or not I think he was wrong in that instance. Just the PK stuff alone, I think it's enough to get him gone for, right? I think the only question is whether or not that's different than other football federations worldwide, and whether or not he's different than the other people who came before him in Spanish football and who will come after him, and whether or not he's different than the people opposing him. Because if you can say that he's corrupt, but so are the people opposing him and trying to get him out, then you could say there's a double standard. But long story short, I don't think Rubial is a good guy, but this particular thing he blew up for, I don't know if he did or not. But that aside, right? This thread was listing all his misdeeds, and then it talked about how he's allegedly anti Real Madrid, right? And the evidence it gave is that he fired Julen Lopetegui, who was coach of Spain before the 2018 World Cup. Spain were one of the favorites to win, but before that World Cup, he announced that he was going to leave at the end of the tournament to coach Real Madrid. Rubiales fired him before the World Cup, and that, according to most people, is why Spain only reached the round of 16 that World Cup, right? So the person making this thread theorized that Rubiales did that because he just hates Real Madrid, right? And maybe that's true. Personally, I think also he was just mad that Julen Lopetegui was putting the Spanish team second to Real Madrid because he was contracted to go on an additional 2 years, but he announced that he was going to cut his contract with the Spanish national team short, and then he announced it before the World Cup. So I think he was just mad that he wasn't totally committed. So I'm not totally sure about that. Could be possible though. But then he also gave some other evidence, like for example, he alleged that he kept Sergio Ramos out of the national team in the last couple of years because Ramos wouldn't back him in an internal political thing, that basically he was opposing some other guy in the federation for, I forget if it was the position of president or just something else, but basically the thread alleged that he didn't back Ramos didn't back Rubiales, so Rubiales told the coaches not to select him, which is why Ramos didn't go to the Euros or the World Cup, even though everyone thought that he was clearly one of Spain's best defenders still, even at his age. Sorry, I had to get rid of a notification. Um, so he's putting that as an anti-Madrid agenda, maybe, but that seems more to me like a personal thing. And he gave some other evidence. Personally, I don't remember every single detail he gave, but personally, the anti-Madrid evidence. And also another key thing to note is that Rubiales is from a region that hates Madrid. Because if you don't know about Spain's internal politics, basically, Spain is dominated by the Castellanos, who live in the center, when Madrid is in the center, the capital. And the language we know as Spanish is really Castilian, right? And then there's all these other regional tribes in Spain, and they have their own languages, right? And the most famous ones to oppose the Castellanos are the Catalans, who are in the northeast of Spain. That's where Barcelona is. But there are also some other regions where they don't like the Castellanos a lot. I don't think any of them really like them, but some rebel more than others. And Rubiales is apparently from one of those regions. I believe he's from Sevilla. And Sevilla, apparently they speak some Catalan there. I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. Someone who knows. Sorry, another notification. But anyway, the point is that they're alleging that he just, because of his tribe, he has just some like innate hate of Madrid and Madridistas in his heart, right? So anyway, I looked at that. It honestly, I don't know if there's enough evidence there to just say definitely he's anti-Madrid. It's possible, you don't know what's in his heart, but I don't think there's clear evidence. But the key thing about that for me is that people think that, right? People think that, and he himself is not a Madridista. That is Rubiales. So I'm thinking, and I haven't dug deep into it, but based off of that, I'm thinking one of the reasons he's being opposed so much, is because there is some internal tribal warfare, um, in the Spanish Football Federation that's rearing its head, and some Madridistas and maybe other people who are just affiliated with Real Madrid. Um, that's kind of the same thing, right? Because I don't know, like how many Real Madrid fans aren't hardcore Castellanos? I don't know. I don't know. It's probably a minority. So it's kind of the same thing. But maybe there's some people who aren't really hardcore Castellanos, Spanish nationalists. They just, I don't know, have a job at Real Madrid, whatever, or love the club because they saw, I don't know, Zidane playing when they were a kid. Although if you were young enough to be a kid when Zidane was playing, would you have a job in the Spanish Football Federation? Because that was like, actually, I guess you could. Because say you were 10 23 years ago. Yeah, possible. But maybe you saw Zidane or you saw Hugo Sanchez in the 80s, or you're old, you saw Puskas in the 60s, Di Stefano, you just love him, whatever. But anyway, the whole point I'm making is I think some Madridistas and Castellano nationalists want to push him out as part of their tribal warfare. So I think that's an undercurrent. Doesn't mean he's not deserved for other reasons, but that might be the real big undercurrent of this whole thing. And they're just using his scandals and all the other scandals in the federation, like even the current head coach, who last I saw a headline is going to get fired. Um, Please tell me in the comments whether or not that's true. I did see that headline, but apparently the current coach who had a general harassment scandal and even had a groping scandal during the final, is getting thrown out. So you have all those other scandals, but it looks to me like people are using these scandals as an opportunity to throw Rubiales out. So anyway, that's my overall assessment of why this is happening. But I'll just say what I said at the end of the last video again, and this time y'all will hear it. If you're not from Spain, you're not Spanish, don't pay too much attention to this. This is really being weaponized as a big feminist issue. Or you could just say, let's leave alone the concept of a feminist issue, but let's just say a big feminist issue and leave it at that. Rubiales' kiss of Jenny Hermoso, but the truth is we don't know these people. We don't know what really happened. It's unclear. And on top of that, they don't affect us. They don't affect our lives in any big way. So don't waste your energy on it, especially most of my audience, who I'm sure is black. Please, this is just some white people. Wow, just leave them alone. Don't pick a side. Don't fight anyone over it. Don't waste your energy. It has nothing to do with you. Um, So one, and then two, if you're in the Spanish Football Federation, just get people a good character in there. Because yeah, there's a tribal warfare situation that I think is the undercurrent of this, in large part. And I don't expect the Spanish Football Federation to solve hundreds of years of tribal warfare. But at the very least, if you get people a good character in there, it's not going to rear its head like this. You won't have all these scandals that are just really embarrassing. Because Rubiales, all due respect to him, I don't know him personally, but the things that he's been publicly accused of and shown to do show that there is some parts of his character that aren't so great. And I think that's true of a lot of other people in the Spanish Football Federation. So the Spanish Football Federation should look to get people better character, and anyone else who wants to form a football organization or any other sort of organization should take the same lesson from this. Whatever you do, make sure you have people of good character in place. Otherwise, things will blow up in your face. Anyway, that's what I got to say for now. Please check my about section on YouTube for good stuff. Check my bio everywhere else for other good stuff, and see you later. Goodbye.